Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Matt Willson Weekly Kickoff Show, Week 4 edition. I'm Mike Dax. He's Gerald Smith. Week 3 in the books. We can recap that real quick. We'll go over the schedule, get into Week 4, break down some games, make some picks, have some fun tonight. Getting ready to get Week 4 going, man.
And it's kind of hard to believe we're already approaching a month into this season, right? We're, I guess we're past the quarter point, right?
Yeah.
We're this week's going to mark a third of the way through the season. So
Already.
Now teams should start separating themselves from one another.
And it's so crazy, too, going through the offseason, it seems like it's just dragging on, and, get to the next event, and then, this offseason we didn't have it, but sometimes you have the draft in there, the minor league season wrapping up, and, the schedule release show, and it's just like, man, when is the season going to start? And then as soon as it starts, it's Week 4. Yeah, it's like, wasn't the convention like yesterday?
It sure was. It felt like it.
That wasn't. Hey, we're already almost a month away, so it's August now. Anyway, let's talk about what happened in Week 3, and then we'll get into Week 4. It was definitely some great football, a lot of great competitive play. It's been good to see that between some teams. It seems like there's a lot of games that are coming down to the wire. Sometimes the final score doesn't necessarily show it because a team might start to run away with it at the end. Great example was Mexico City, Indianapolis. For anybody who didn't watch that game, man, my heart was up here on the floor. It rolled away into the trash a couple times. I had to go get it, bring it back, But that final score, the Aztecs ended up running it up a little bit at the end. Sorry, Indy, I didn't mean to, but yeah,
He did, totally
did.
did.
Yeah, just stomp him. But hey, we started off last week with a great one between Fort Worth and Atlanta last week. 20-13 final, came right down to the wire. Remember Atlanta got up 10-0. We thought, man, Atlanta go, and then Fort Worth just put my beer and
we actually was calling it the punt game or the picks and kicks because there was interceptions and kicks happening everywhere.
So many punts. We actually came up with a game within the game. There's not time for that tonight, though. The clock is ticking, and you keep letting it run up on zero.
True.
We got to go. We got a schedule to keep here. That was one of the two games last week that did end in a one-score final. Second straight week that there was a game that was a shutout. It's actually the third shutout of the season. Arizona just taking it to Chicago, 31-0. And then, as I mentioned, the Aztecs, we had our home opener. Team did amazing in all three phases. Yes, I will toot my own team's horn. Good job, Aztecs. Everyone played great. It was a fun game to watch. Put up the most points of the week too. 48 points scored. That was the highest of any team. So you guys didn't score anything.
No, because we didn't play at all. But look, we didn't give up anything either. So,
That's
but look,
true.
You guys putting up that many points is something good for you guys going. I mean, because we got a hold. We didn't get a hold of you guys. You guys put it to us in week 1. And then you guys had week 2 off. In week 3, you guys came back and just almost looked like you never missed a beat.
Yeah. We got a big game coming up this weekend. Let's go over the schedule and talk about what that game is and all the others. Starting off tonight, we've got Lexington at Bossier City kicking off at 8 p.m. Eastern time. And unlike the other Friday nights this season, so far anyway, we've got 2 games going on tonight. At 8:15 tonight, we kick off Atlanta at Motor City. You've got Cameron Duty and Anthony Ellison. So I won't feel bad if you're not tuned into our game, because I can't help but watch a Cameron Duty called game, especially with Anthony on analysis. 2 of them going to do a great job. They're going to steal some of our viewers.
Look, if I can listen to anybody, there's a lot of guys I can listen to, but Cameron Duty is definitely one of my favorites. Don't pay love.
Sure is. So that's our Friday slate. Saturday, 6:30, we get kicked off with Nashville at Indianapolis. Eric Vincent, Anthony Ellison again on the call. There's going to be quite a few names doing double duty this week. Cameron Duty being one of them. A little bit of, the broadcasters taking the week off on me, I guess.
Yeah.
But other people stepping up, and that was great to see. At 6:45 p.m., we've got Florida at Charleston. Mark Lopez and Eddie Gage on the call. And then at 9 p.m., your Louisiana Revolution head to Minnesota. Mark Lopez again in on the action, along with Wade Phillips, another one of our favorites. At 9:15, we've got Denver at Houston. Chris Curtis, Eric Vincent, just the 2 of them on a call together. I don't even know what I was thinking. It was more out of necessity than desire to have the 2 of them in the booth together.
I feel like chaos going to ensue on Saturday night.
It's going to be good. So that's our Saturday slate. 6:30 p.m. on Sunday. Myself and Eddie Gage are going to be 2 of the most anxious men on the planet. We're going to be pacing around our houses. We're going to be breaking things. It's going to be good. It's going to be bad. It's going to be ugly. It's going to be wonderful and beautiful. But Mexico City at Arizona, I can't wait for that.
I feel like we need cameras in the household for that one.
Well, we might be able to make something work with that. Jacob Clear, Rochelle Colston get to call that mayhem of a game. So we'll see how it plays out on the field, but I know it's going to be chaos wherever Eddie and I will be during that game. 6:45 p.m. Albuquerque at Baltimore. Tyler Falk and camera duty on the call. 9 p.m. we've got Carolina, Los Angeles with Jacob Clear and Mike O'Neill. And then at 9:15 p.m. we've got Chicago at Pittsburgh with Ethan and Brett. And of course on Monday night, the Monday Night Spectacular, DC Dragons, Canton Classics, Cameron Irvine, Charles Doherty. Interested to see, can DC get the best of Canton in their own house? It's going to be it's a tall task.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a tough one because DC had actually had some struggles recently, but I don't know. We'll see come Monday.
199 super chat from Z Bull. Look, I actually am able to do the super chats now. I planned ahead. Keep up the great work, Mike and Gerald Willson, number 12. Appreciate that. That's Matt Wilson's mom, Carol. Thank you very much. And we will indeed try to keep up the great work. We'll keep up the work.
I don't know if it's great. I think we're far from great.
It's average at best.
Maybe I'm great and you're mediocre.
That's pretty mean. So, wow. All right. Well, this will be the last. I'm actually recruiting for a new sidekick for my show. So
I'll take the sidekick. I'm the greatest sidekick.
Let's start breaking down some games. Sunday, 9:15 p.m. We talked about Chicago at Pittsburgh. Both teams struggling so far this season, 0-3. Both teams have lost all 3 of their games by 2 scores or more. Both teams got crushed last week by their prospective opponents, and both teams probably hate me right now for my intro to their season, how I'm describing it. But as Matt Wilson would say, the O has got to go. Someone clears that hurdle this week. Someone gets their first win of the season. Listen, there's no sugarcoating it. Both teams have had trouble scoring. That's been the problem. And they're also having trouble stopping other teams from scoring against them. So who's going to get it done and how? We'll start with Chicago.
Look, Chicago's offense has been among the league's worst. So they're going to hate me as much as they hate you for what you said earlier, right? Yeah. They've been among the league's worst the first 3 weeks of the season. They rank second to last in rushing and second to last in points scored, which is 8.7 points a game, and have the fourth to last ranked total offense in the league right now. Yeah. Right? Look, and to say they have struggled is a severe understatement. They have not looked good at all. Quarterback type attack is having one of the worst starts of his career, with his completion percentage being 41% so far through this season, ranked second to last in this season so far among all quarterbacks. He's been sacked 8 times through 3 games, which is the most in the SFL right now. The running backs have not been good either. 2.2 yards per carry this season. Now, the loss of Baloo Scott is actually showing now then, because they're not able to get the run game going. Look, and they need to get the run game going to turn this offense around. And they only are converting 33% of third downs, which is, you guessed it, one of the worst. Matter of fact, it's the last in the SFL. So if their offense cannot get turned around, they're going to continue to struggle.
And speaking of the run game, not only can they not find any success running the ball on offense, they're also unable to stop the run on defense. Talk about that.
Right, look, and they are giving up 140 yards rushing per game. Again, allowing it to their opponents, and that's second to last in the SFL. I'm laughing because it seems like this is fake. Like, how can both sides on the ball struggle so much? But they are, right? And because they can't stop the run, they're giving up over 25 points a game. When you're giving up 25 points a game and only scoring 8, that's nowhere near a winning formula. So they got a lot of correct on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, absolutely. And this opponent that they're going up against with Pittsburgh, if they're going to stop the run, this will be the time to do it. This offense has not been very good either. In fact, their offense is ranking last in the rush.
42 yards per game this season. And, and they are third worst in points per game at 9.7, only 1 point better than Chicago's doing on offense, right? So, but the passing offense is 6th best in the SFL. But Eric Price, their quarterback, has thrown 6 interceptions with only 1 touchdown.
Right.
So they have not been good on offense either. You can throw for a ton of yards, but if you're throwing way too many interceptions versus the very little touchdowns, that's just not going to get you to win any games. The team offensively lacks an identity. but against a struggling Chicago defense, they might be able to figure out what they are and what their identity is on offense.
They might, but Chicago might be able to do that too. We talked about Chicago not having a very good running offense, but Pittsburgh's running defense has been just downright bad. They've been getting run all over this season. So maybe this is where Chicago's rushing offense picks up.
And they might be able to do it, right? And Pittsburgh has given up 230 yards a game to opponents. That's way too much. Obviously, I don't have to say that's last in the SFL, right? Along with giving up 34 points a game, which is second to last.
Right.
In the league as well. So, but they had a third best pass defense. You would think that that's a positive. But why would you throw if you're running all over an opponent? Why would you put any kind of balls in the air to risk it being, picked off or something like that when you're rushing for over 230 yards a game? So, look, and they're going to have to correct this on defense as well. These two teams have a lot of correcting. If they are going to try to correct something, this game is very important for them to try and get it because they are playing almost mirror images of one another, they might be able to exploit each other and get themselves a win.
And maybe one of the teams can make an impact statement and say, not only are we going to win, we're going to win big and just really take it to that other team. But we'll find out Sunday night, 9:15 when that one kicks off. Earlier in the day, Sunday, 6:45 p.m., we've got Albuquerque at Baltimore, one of the rookie teams this season against one of the wily old vets that's seen it all and done it all. All last season, we talked about the Canton Classics. Every single show, it seems, we talked to the point, no offense, of nauseum. It was we get to talk about Canton again. Let's see, what else can we say? They're the best, they're the best, they're the best, they're the best. Every single time and every stat. We always talked about how they were number one in scoring all season long. This season, it's actually currently the Baltimore Vultures. It's not Canton. Now, Canton's number 2, and they're right there.
Right.
So Baltimore's going to have to put up some serious points to stay up out in front. But, Albuquerque, they have the potential to slow that down this week. They're coming off their last game of week 2 where they held Denver to no points scored. They shut them out. It was one of our 3 shutouts. Not to mention, Baltimore lost last week. So tough back and forth battle that they had with Minnesota. Ultimately, they lost at 44-31. So still put up 31 points and lost. So that speaks to maybe an adjustment on defense. Albuquerque, they struggled hard in week 1. They lost to Atlanta 31-7. But as mentioned, they shut out Denver in week 2, 23-0. Baltimore, though, they almost never lose at home. They've played 93 games in Sports Gamers Online Stadium, and they have only lost 11 of those games out of 93. Can Albuquerque take down the Beasts? What are they going to have to do on offense?
Well, Albuquerque had a bye in week 3, so they did get a look at some of the other teams, especially Baltimore. Got a decent amount of film, right? But Albuquerque did look really impressive against Denver in week 2. They played mistake-free football and was fairly balanced offensively. The run game was huge for them as they rushed for over 150 yards in week 2, led by running back Jason Williams, and they dominated the line of scrimmage. If you don't remember, but I did mention, because we did call one of their games, how they were dominating that line of scrimmage and everything else, and how I mentioned, hey, look, they were pushing, their offensive line was just pushing them back and frustrating the defensive linemen. So look, if they need more of that going forward, especially this week against Baltimore. And
on defense, they need to have a great game plan. I mean, they definitely had a great game plan against Denver. If you hold an opponent to 0 points, you had a great game.
Oh, definitely. Look, and 3 interceptions and held them for under 200 yards of total offense in week 2. Look, they haven't pressured the quarterback overly well, but they might have to bring pressure to stop the number 3 passing attack in the SFL, which Baltimore has. They will also need a similar output as they had in week 2 from the defense to slow down, as you put it, the league's number 1 offense, who it seems like they can just score from anywhere at any moment, at any time. So they're going to have to bring that same intensity they had against Denver here in week 4 against Baltimore.
Especially playing in Baltimore's home. Listen, like we talked about, they came off a loss in week 3, but they are a dangerous offense.
Right. Look, and they're scoring a ton of points. Number 1 offense in the league. And they, lead the SFL in third down conversions at 68%, which is led by their quarterback, the former MVP, Jack Wigmore, who is number 2 in passing yards and number 1 in TDs thrown.
Right.
So they have Albuquerque defensively has got something, they need to stop, right? And he
need to lock down
and he's been the favorite target. He is number 2 in receptions in the league so far this season. So their offense is really explosive and scoring 30 3 points a game, which is number 2 in the SFL. So they are able to put up a ton of points. And I don't know what can stop them, but if Albuquerque they have a chance that they can repeat what they did against Denver.
They can, but as I mentioned, Baltimore lost last week while putting up 31 points. Why did they lose? Because their opponent was able to put up 44 points. So if there is a weakness on the team, their defense allowed a lot of points last week.
Right, and they're giving up 29 points per game. Yeah. Right, they have given up no less than 20 points in each of their 3 games played so far this season. They also give up 52% of the third down conversions to their opponents. But this is where their strength is. They are number 2 in sacks. They are top 5 in takeaways this season. They have held opponents just under what their offense scores. It's almost like they're in shootouts and everything else. But sooner or later, as we saw last week, a shootout, you're going to lose that shootout, right? So let's see if they're going to, continue that trend defensively and give up a ton of points, or they're going to finally start correcting it.
Yeah, we'll find out. That's a couple of great games on Sunday. This one could potentially become a shootout, like you said. And then I'm really interested to see Chicago and Pittsburgh play on Sunday. 2 winless teams. Somebody's going to get that win. It's going to be a great day for one of those teams.
It is.
But on the flip side, the other team's going to experience their 4th straight loss on the season, and that's like a gut punch. A couple seasons ago the Aztecs were in the same sort of boat, just lost game after game. It's not a good feeling. But hey, listen, as our commissioner likes to remind people, and I quote, I want it to hurt. It's a little bit sadistic, but he wants it to, and it does.
That's a man that just does not care about feelings.
Cruel man. All right, so let's get into tonight's games. We got a couple of excellent games coming up. We'll break down the one that we're going to do last. We'll start with the one that kicks off at 8:15. We've got Atlanta at Motor City. We got to see Atlanta firsthand last week, and it's a couple of teams that are kind of off to a slow start this season. Atlanta's at 1-2, Motor City at 0-2. 2 different outputs though from those teams. Their records very similar. The teams, they're not that similar. Motor City has simply struggled to score. Week 1, they did put up 16 points, but they allowed 30 to Bossier City, who we'll see tonight firsthand. Week 3, they only managed a couple of field goals while still surrendering 30-plus points in a loss to a division rival in Lexington. Atlanta, though, they've been able to score up 10-0 to start the game last week against Fort Worth, who a lot of people are currently dubbing the best team in the league, which if you look at the power rankings votes on the SFL website, a lot of people voted them number 1, and Atlanta got out in front. But they did end up surrendering a bunch of points after that, and they've in the last 2 games they lost. So they need to just not give up the lead and be able to hold on through the end for the win. If they're going to have some success, they might be able to do it against a struggling Motor City team tonight. Let's talk about Atlanta's offense.
Yeah, Atlanta's offense has been pretty mediocre the last 2 games. Look, and the run game has been non-existent. Yeah. They're only averaging 46 yards a game the last 2 weeks, right? It's almost as if they forgot that they have a Hall of Fame running back in BDG Hollywood in the backfield. They're not giving him any touches, and when he is, he's not being productive.
How long did it take last week before we finally saw him?
And
the whole first quarter went by. He had maybe 1 touch.
Right, and that's the thing that was crazy. Like I feel like a guy like BDG, he needs more touches to get himself going, right, and everything else. And he's just not getting it. And when he is getting it, he's just not being productive right now. Yeah. Passing game has been terrible too. Quarterback Bryant Dynasty has been only completing 43% of his passes the last 2 games. The offense has only averaged 203 yards of total offense the last 2 weeks. Look, which is nowhere near enough to get themselves consistently to win games, right? So they have scored. This is mind-boggling when I was diving further. They have scored no offensive touchdowns the last 2 weeks. Right. They did score a touchdown, but that was a pick 6 that they got off of defense. So when you don't score any touchdowns for 2 straight weeks, I think there's something seriously starting to brew in there. And maybe the offense is starting to lack confidence in themselves to even consistently move the ball and put up points.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of it's going to fall on the shoulders of their defense because the offense is struggling. Like you mentioned, there was that pick 6 that I know you'll probably talk about. But the defense hasn't played particularly good or bad. They've been kind of hit and miss. Talk about the defense.
Look, and they've been basically playing with the hand that they've been dealt. seeing how the offense just has not had, like the rhythm that they wanted, right? But look, they have scored more touchdowns than the offense has the last 2 weeks.
Right.
Jay Miraculous with his miraculous pick 6 that they had last week, right? They have been leaned on a lot with the offensive struggles, and they have fairly held their own. They may have to create more turnovers to give their offense more opportunities, or like they did last week, just score some touchdowns themselves.
If your offense can't get it done, your defense can.
Somebody got to do it.
The Aztecs defense scored some points for us. We got some special teams points. Sometimes you need all three phases to get that win, and Atlanta's showing that, maybe they need those other two phases to step up too. Motor City, they just really haven't been able to produce much of anything. What do you think about their offense?
And look, and I can truly say, season in and season out with Motor City, I have no idea what to make of the team, right? There's really high hopes every season of what they built and everything else, but they just can't put it together, right? So they are near the bottom in every offensive category. Points scored, they're ranked 22nd out of 25. They score 11 points a game. Passing offense, 24th. Rushing offense, 19th. Total offense, 24th. Not to mention, they have not scored an offensive touchdown all season.
Right.
They have only scored a touchdown this season, which was a kick return for a touchdown. They need to figure out a way to put points on the board because, as we know, you don't win games if you don't score any points. So they're going to have to figure out a way to do that.
Yeah, they are. And the defense has struggled as well. And it just doesn't bode well when your offense is struggling and your defense is struggling. Like we talked about with Atlanta, offense has had some struggles, but the defense stepped up. Can Motor City's defense step up tonight?
And they've struggled just as much as the offense have. Defense, ranked 22nd, 32 points a game they give up. Pass defense, last. Rush defense, 22nd out of 25. Total defense, last. They have a chance this week, though, against a struggling Atlanta offense to try and get that defense rolling and try to figure out what you can do to stop opponents, to give your offense more opportunities to put more points on the board and maybe finally get that offensive touchdown that has eluded them.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll see if they can do it. That game kicks off in less than a half hour time. Game that kicks off in just a few minutes, though. Lexington at Bossier City. It's an interesting matchup. I'm really not sure what to expect from these teams. Lexington has looked really good on paper, 2-1 right now, and they absolutely crushed their week 2 and 3 opponents. But I have an asterisk on that.
I see that.
Why is there an asterisk on that? Because, however, those opponents are currently the winless Queen City Corsairs and the winless Motor City V8s. So those two wins, they're wins. A win's a win at the end of the day, but the opponent matters. And speaking of opponents, their loss against Fort Worth that they had in week 1 is against the undefeated, currently many people voting number 1 in the league, Fort Worth Toros. So you'd expect that a team would lose to that team. You'd expect that a team should be able to beat a couple of winless teams. So their 2-1 record, is it a reflection on their team? Or is it a reflection on their opponents? That's my question about Lexington. For Bossier City, it's the latest brand of the franchise that's now had 7 different names. And it's not a shot at them. It's just
I think it is. I take the shot they can't stay consistent with their ownership group whatsoever. Let's move all over the country. Next thing you know, they're going to be the Tokyo Typhoons.
No, they're going to be the North Dakota Nomads. It's all they do is just relocate around the country. North Dakota, they're coming to you next. I don't know where that just came from. It's the only place I could think of with an N. So, but they started as the Dallas Law back in season 6. Anyway, they're at 1-1 right now. They defeated Motor City in their season opener, but then they lost to Denver last week in a low scoring game. The same Denver team that got shut out the week before. So it's like, are either of these teams good? Are either of these teams bad? I just don't know based on what we've seen so far. But tonight we get to see the home debut of Red River Stadium in Bossier City's home opener. Now let's talk about Lexington and see what their offense is.
Well, Lexington has been winners of 2 straight, and they're scoring over 30 points in each.
Yeah,
they have played, as you mentioned, some teams that seem to be rebuilding, but a win is a win. Look, they haven't relied, and surprisingly, they haven't relied on Gabriel Manning, right? And like they did last season going into this season, right? So far, they've kind of had, something a little bit different. The run game has seemingly come alive by a guy pretty well with Phoenix Jones and his running back partner in Deion James, who have combined, to have the league's number 4 rushing attack. quarterback Kenny Slater has been really productive as well, throwing to Gabriel Manning and DJ Bannon, who both are top 8 in receptions so far this season. Now for Lexington does a balanced offense equal a dangerous offense? I guess going forward, that's something we're going to figure out. There'll be a little bit more balance with the run and the pass. Who knows? They might be a lot more dangerous than they were last season.
Yeah, same thing with the defense. I mean, they've been, as I know you called it, sneaky good over the past 2 weeks. Talk about that defense. And, again, is it the opponent? Is it the team?
Yeah, see, and that's the thing. Like, look, they've only given up an average of 9 points the last 2 games. It were against a lot less for opponents, but you're winning. Right? When you win, it don't care who you beat. You just need to get those wins in the win column, right? The unit is number 2 in takeaways, so they know how to give their offense more opportunities, right? So very underrated thus far, given the talent that they have faced. But they have all, like I mentioned, they haven't faced really tough talent outside of, the Fort Worth Toros, who they lost against. So I guess we're going to see the, a Bossier City team that we don't know we're going to get yet. Yeah,
we'll see. And speaking of Bossier City, I know it's a team kind of encroaching on your Louisiana territory. I know you're not crazy about that idea, but yeah, we get to see their home opener here in Louisiana tonight. Talk about this.
Yeah, so look, I want to give credit to this team, right? I know they lost a ton. They have a huge turnover. I want to give a credit to, their GM, Gunny McGuire, coming in, right? And he assembled a really good team because this offseason, if anybody was paying attention, it was looking pretty bleak for them, right? Now, look here, and now that they got all these people in place in week 1, the offense looked extremely good. Even though it was a bit one-dimensional towards the pass, throwing for over 350 yards with 3 touchdowns by quarterback Ace Finnick. They looked really good, but the run game was non-existent, only getting 2 yards a carry from Hunter McWaffle and Speedy Gonzalez, right? So in week 2, what they do? They turn around and had the same type of approach, but it didn't go quite as well. Finnick threw 4 interceptions, no touchdowns, 41% completions, and again, the run game was nowhere to be found. The rush offense is ranked 23rd in the SFL, and if I'm being honest, if I got a running back on my team named Speedy Gonzalez, and if he's fast like the cartoon mouse, you would expect a lot more from a guy like that.
He's got to live up to his namesake. You're going to carry a name like that on your jersey. You better live up to that namesake.
Yeah, I mean, I would expect so.
I didn't do this to you. You did this to you. Okay. Anyway, let's talk about that defense. The defense, they've held their own against their opponents.
Yeah, and they're only allowing 14, points a game to start the season, right? They have given their offense plenty of opportunities to produce points, right? They're among the league's best on third down, only allowing 45% conversion to their opponent. So tonight, it will be one of their toughest tests against an offense that has kind of sort of produced and puts up a lot of points. So it's going to be a true gauging thing for Bossier City, right? It's either going to tell us, hey, this is what we're going to get as if it was week 1, or we're going to get the Bossier City from week 2.
All right. Well, we'll find out in just a couple minutes time. We got a couple minutes left of the show. Let's get into our favorite segment.
Yeah.
Because we get to go head to head. Our picks. Where are we at with the picks? Well, Mr. Overconfident went undefeated 2 weeks ago and then thought, I'm going to do it again and start running away with the lead. And boom, I caught back up almost. I'm still losing. I'm currently 7-4 on the season. You are 8-3. So only a game up.
I got slapped back to reality last week.
And you deserve it.
I was overconfident, won 1 game out of 3. It was a bad show.
Yeah, you picked Vancouver, Minnesota.
LA. I blame LA. LA let me down. They ruined the entire weekend.
Oh, and I thought they were going to win, too. They were out in front early. I'm watching the game. I'm thinking, man, I am going to hear it from you. And then all of a sudden, the game turned around.
I was at halftime about to text you like, bro, I'm going to win this.
I picked Canton, Baltimore, Nashville, and of course, I got 2 wins. You got 1 win, so I caught back up. Let's get into the nice picks. Chicago at Pittsburgh, game that could go either way. Who do you got?
I got Pittsburgh because I think Pittsburgh at home is going to take it. Chicago is struggling. They don't have a run game. Neither does Pittsburgh. But you know what? Somebody's got to win this game, and I think Pittsburgh's going to do it. They're going to get their first win in their home stadium.
And I'm going to say Chicago on the road in Pittsburgh. Chicago is going to get the win. I spent way too much time. I flipped a whole bunch of coins. I asked a psychic, one of those 1-900 numbers. I don't know if those are even still a thing. Not that kind of. Never mind.
Yeah,
anyway,
I was thinking the same thing.
Like, what? You did what now? Anyway, listen, time's ticking. But it was tough for me to pick this one. I'm thinking it could go either way. But ultimately, I'm looking at the 2 rosters side by side. Chicago has more depth. They have a more complete roster. And I think when you pit two very similar teams up against each other, you got to go with the one that's got the deeper roster, and that's Chicago. So that's who I'm going with. Albuquerque at Baltimore.
I have no choice but to pick Baltimore. They're way too good on offense. Albuquerque, while they look, not so good in the first week, they look really good the second week against a lesser opponent. Baltimore showed consistently that they can score points no matter who the team is.
I picked Baltimore as well. 93 games played in the stadium. They've only lost 11 times. This is not going to be the 12th. Atlanta, Motor City.
I can't make sense of Motor City and what they're doing or even how they're trying to do it. Atlanta seems more stable, similar to why you're picking Chicago. I'm looking the same way in Atlanta. More depth, more, experience and everything else. And they have a winning formula. They have the players that are do it. I think Atlanta takes it away.
Ditto.
That's easy.
That's all I got. Atlanta, I think, is going to get the win. Until Motor City can show that they have any consistency on any side of the ball, it would be very tough to pick them against pretty much anyone.
Right.
But good luck to them as they host Atlanta. Once again, we have failed. The timer is at 0.
It's my fault.
You just talk and talk and talk. But listen, we'll get ready for the action. It's starting just minutes from now. This has been the Matt Willson Weekly Kickoff Show. And as Matt Willson would say, how's this game going to turn out? There's only one way to